This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. I just got back from work, as my guest has as well. And we're going to start our post work chatting with each other, which is a lot more fun. And here we are. Well, and I guess for both of us, it's 2 in the morning here on February the 24th, 2022, just after midnight where my guest is. And this is great. I was on his podcast just a little over a week ago. Had a great time. Folks, I give you the host of Attitude Era live on Monday nights on Ken FM?
Ken's FM, 89.1 Ken's FM. Yeah.
Perfect. Folks, I give you Scott, the icon, Helmrast. How do you do, Scott?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. How are you? It's pretty cold out here. I just checked the temperature. We're at minus 15 right now. So we're trying to warm up, trying to stay warm, trying to get this winter out of here. But you know where I come from, as you know, we have 4 seasons. We have winter, flood, road construction, and football. So that's what we have here in North Dakota.
Well, you know what? I just talking to one of my guests from California, and she was bundled up at 47 degrees, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
47 degrees and they're bundled up, man. Man, I'll tell you what. If you want to experience Antarctica, come on down to North Dakota. We can freeze you out real quick, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I'm good friends with Nancy McLaughlin from Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. And
oh, cool.
She and I were chatting, and she says it's cold there, 47 degrees. And I was just ribbing her about that. You know, I was like, yeah, 47 degrees. I can imagine when Canadians get off the plane in California, what they think in California when they see Canadians get off and they're wearing next to nothing.
Well, you know, I don't know if you heard the. Now, I was going to ask Greg, does it distract if I have a couple sips of my beverage every once in a while? Does that distract? Oh, perfect. Okay. I got my icon beverage here. Of course, that's Sunny Delight and pink lemonade.
Oh, that sounds great! What a combination.
Yeah, it's and energy drinks. Usually Monster energy drink or well, whatever I can find at the store. But you know, here on this side of the border in the States here, like North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, Montana, we have a saying for winters. Winter is like Justin Bieber. It's cute for a while, but then it can stay in Canada.
I don't know. I don't know what Justin Bieber's doing now. If he's cleaned his act up, great. I wasn't impressed when I heard the news of that time when I work as a cleaner. So when I hear about Justin Bieber and his buddies laughing and giggling while he pisses in some janitor's mop bucket.
Oh my, yeah.
I don't care for that.
I don't either, and I guess I'm just not a fan. Maybe because I'm not a teenage gal, what have you. You know, I know he's got his fans. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the Justin Bieber fans, just so we're on the same page. But I'm not a fan. You know, I guess there's a lot of things I'm not a fan of. You know, we want to get into that. Well, like I say, I'm an open book. Whatever you want to ask me, I'll ask you direct. I'll answer directly. So, you know, I think this is actually the first time I've done an open forum in a long time.
Well, you know what? It's interesting because I got this. Well, before I get into how we connected, I would like to get your background and how Attitude Era Live became a reality for you.
Well, here's actually how it started. I was working for a gentleman that had a promotion called Maui Madness,
Mm-hmm.
and he started this promotion. One year, the first year he had Ric Flair here. The second year he had Buff Bagwell and Scott Steiner. And he asked me, he actually came to my work and asked me, uh, he saw my Facebook of these cards that I was making. And you know which cards I'm referring to because you got one yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying, can you make some of these cards for me? And I'm like, sure. And, usually when you're at work and so they say there's someone at the lobby down to see, it's like, okay, is it the police or is it the IRS? And it was neither, which was fortunate. And he said, I got this thing. Can you make? And I met the guy at the time. He was starting his own media network called Overtime.news. And he had mentioned that they're launching a radio podcast called Off the Ropes. And I said, if I love to come work for you. Anything you need, I love to be part of that. Next thing I know, the Monday after WrestleMania was the first show that they had, and I started out as a caller. And basically, the show was launched to complain about how bad the WWE was on Monday nights, and that was interesting for about 2 weeks. And I called, I called these guys and said, look, I used to be a producer of the Ben and Jim show, nationally syndicated talk show. I can get you guys guests. I can do this. I can do that. And we started out with, there was 5 hosts, and then it whittled away to me and Big Swing. And I started getting guests, and I got us a theme song. We got hooked up with ESPN New York. This year we got, last year in August, we got launched with 89.1 Ken's FM. And it's grown to, I'd say we started out maybe 200-300 listeners a week to 9,700 to 9,800 a week.
Wow. Well, it's interesting to me because I was working one night mopping a floor, I believe, and I get this contact from you asking to interview me. Now, outside you, I think the only person that's ever interviewed me was Scotty McCoy from Slasher Scotty, and Scotty's been on my show 6 times, and I've been on his twice, and so outside him, I've never been asked to do an interview, and so I was kind of surprised. My first reaction was, why me? And I think that's my question for you. What made you want to interview me?
Well, I saw that we had a few mutual friends, and I heard about I kind of saw about your podcast, and I saw some of the guests that you had, and I'm thinking, well, he'd be pretty interesting for our show, and that's when I reached out to you. And the information I sent you, I always, whoever I have as a potential guest, I send out the time,
Mm-hmm.
the day we're on. I send links so they can listen to past shows.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing was, you called me. I was actually shopping at Aldi's, which is kind of funny because I was shopping for Aldi's, buying stuff for my beverage that I have every night before I go to sleep.
Uh-huh.
And I just thought that you seemed like a cool guy. And the other thing is, I saw your one of your pictures on Facebook. It's like, any guy that can stand there and get a kiss on the cheek from 2 girls at the same time, one of my dreams. He's got to be pretty cool. And when you were on, we had 9,500 listeners for your segment when you were on with us. So
that blows my mind.
And Granny Hulkster really loves you, and Matthias, of course, wants to be on your show, and
he's welcome.
Like I said, it's growing, from where it was to what it is now.
Well, I appreciate it. I was surprised 9,500 people tuning in to me. I'm like, wow, and I love Granny Hulkster as well. I had her on the show last week early in the morning, and it was a blast.
She mentioned that. Yeah, she
Yeah.
said that you called her. She was still in bed.
Oh, was she?
Yeah, and I think also you mentioned that no one has ever asked for your autograph before until me.
No, I've never been asked for an autograph before. I still got to figure out how to get pictures done off, but I'm like, um, okay, I don't know why anybody want my autograph, but you're welcome to it
Well,
if you want it.
I'll kind of I'll kind of explain that too a little bit. I'm a memorabilia collector, whether it be autographs, sports memorabilia,
Hmm.
sports cards, bobbleheads, VHS tapes, DVDs, board games, puzzles, anything sports related. I'm all in. As a matter of fact, if you can see my apartment here, like in the living room, for instance, you know, I go thrift storing every weekend, and anytime I see something that's sports related, I buy it. Now, what's funny about that? I don't want to go off topic here. Let me know if I am.
No, that's
But
okay.
I always have a voice in my head. I ask this voice in my head, "Is this man capable?" And the voice in my head said, "Yes, it is." And the voice in my wife's head says, "No, it's not." And unfortunately, most of the time, the voice in my head overrules the voice of my wife.
Well,
I just have to go for another week of fish sticks. I guess I can handle that.
well, that's not bad. Fish sticks, good. I'm down for that. But the two women in the pictures give me the sandwich because that was my first convention. That was Horrorama in 2017, and that was Lisa Langlois from class of 1984, and Leslie Donaldson from Curtains, and of course they were both in Happy Birthday to Me and Deadly Eyes. Um, so I got that picture done. They've both been on my show twice. I've lost touch with Leslie, but Lisa and I are good friends because she was the one that invited me to that con, and it was my first trip out of New Brunswick, other than Prince Edward Island. My first real trip, my first time being on a plane or anything like that, and Lisa opened up a few doors for me, in terms of how to present myself. I now got my own business cards and stuff like that, and I remember when I landed in Toronto, she met me at Union Station. She taught me the ins and outs with the subways and the streetcars because we don't have those here, you know.
Right.
So she taught me a lot, and anytime I go to Toronto, I connect with her and always meet for dinner and whatnot. And Lisa's become a wonderful friend, and so in fact, I'm set this fall, and I'm hoping everything comes through for Frightmare in the Falls. I think I'm going to be accompanying her for that as well. So it'll be my second time assisting her at a con. So yeah,
Now, were you nervous on your first plane ride?
I'm the only one in my family who's ever been on a plane, and I was nervous about it. But when Lisa Langlois invites me, because I've loved Class of 1984 since the 80s, it's like when Lisa, who played Patsy, invites me to assist her at a con, who am I to say no to that?
Yeah.
Of course I'm going to say yes. So I'll tell you one thing. I was nervous about the plane. I took some gravel, which I realized I didn't really need, because once we got in the air, it was like a bus in the sky. It didn't bother me. And when, I've been with the exception of 2020, I've been to Toronto every year since, and I actually don't mind taking the plane, as long as we don't ever go down in a harsh way. I'm
Right.
good with it, but
Well, the first time I ever was on a plane was when I flew to Disney World with my father, and I learned one thing about whenever I travel on a plane, I have to have a full stomach because if I have an empty stomach, I found out I get airsick. So I always have a big meal before I go on a plane. So that way, when you go up and down, you don't have an empty stomach. So, the weight just kind of stays in your stomach so you don't get airsick.
I never thought of that. I've flown Porter Airlines here in Canada, and it's a smaller airline, but it's really nice, and they serve food on the flight, and it's nice. I haven't gone to the States or anything like that. I haven't
We got to
done
get
any.
you here.
I don't have a passport yet, and right now, my job situation, I think I get like 2 weeks off a year, and if I do cons, I generally uh, do them in. I generally right now do them in Toronto because that way I can connect with Lisa. But there might be a time down the future if she's doing a con in the States, I may accompany her to something like that because I love doing the cons with her, and Nancy McLaughlin's another one that um, these are two people I try to find bookings for. I'm not their manager, but I do it as a friend. I don't mind doing that. But yeah, I love that first con, and I remember it very, very well. I remember the guests that were there, and it was extraordinary. I was at that. I seated at Lisa's table, and I'd help keep her table I remember I arrived on a Thursday, and the Horror-Rama was Saturday and Sunday. But I arrived on Thursday because the following day, Lisa was going to go get her photos and stuff. She was getting those done up, and I met up with her, and I went with her to carry her photos and stuff like that. But it also gave me an opportunity, not just to hang out with Lisa, but it also allowed me the opportunity to see Toronto more. So it was a double hitter for me. So and then
Did you get to see the Blue Jays Stadium when you were there?
no, I'm not a baseball fan, so that wouldn't have interested me, but and quite frankly, I'm fine. Like when I hang out and when I go to Toronto, Lisa and I usually, like, if I'm there a week, we usually connect several times during that week because I'm usually not there for another year. So we usually connect for dinner. Although I do save we have what we call scene points for our movie theater here. You get so many scene points, you get free movies. I save all my free movies for Toronto. And I always tell Lisa, cool. I said, yeah, because I always tell Lisa, pick whatever movies you want to see, and I've got freebies, and we can do that. So I always find things that she and I can do. But I remember when I was there in 2019, there was a double screening there. And this is one of the things I love about Toronto because I could see a lot of old movies screened. They had a double screening of White and Black Christmas. And
the good version or the bad version of Black Christmas?
The 1974 movie.
The good one, not the remake. The remake was terrible.
Yeah. I did an interview from the remake that was one of my most cringy interviews I've ever done. But nonetheless, I called Lisa and I said, hey, there's screenings of White and Black Christmas. You want to join me? I'll get the tickets. She wasn't interested in White Christmas. But she said she'd join me for Black Christmas. Black Christmas was shot in Toronto. So she would have known a lot of people that were in it, So I went, I got her a ticket for Black Christmas. I went in and I watched White Christmas, which had some people at it, a reasonable attendance, but Black Christmas was packed. And I remember after we were done, Lisa called Art Hendel, who was in it. I've never had Art Hendel on the show yet. I got to get him on here, but I remember she called him because she wanted to know if Art Hindle still had that coat from the movie, and I guess he still does. So yeah, so I always have a lot of fun connecting with Lisa there, and
She's not like she'd be a cool guest for my show. I don't know if she does a lot of interviews, but it sounds really cool. I'd like to have her on my show too. That'd be awesome.
Lisa is pretty awesome. When she's not busy, like I've had her on twice, and I know she wants to come on again sometime this year for the 40th anniversary of class of 1984. And I know other people told me they want her on the show, and I recommend them. But the thing with Lisa is it's a matter of timing with her, because I kind of know what I don't know intimately what her schedule's like, but I know if I want to get her on the show, I got to be patient on it. And she's not the only one I've had to be patient with getting on the show. One of the things I always tell people when it comes to podcasts is the 3 Ps: be patient, be persistent, and be polite. Like I had Nancy Allen on last year. It took me 5 years to finally get connection with her. 5 years.
Wow, that's determination there.
Well, I love Dress to Kill. I really love that movie. I wanted to talk to her about it. I have made connection with her in 2020, but due to the pandemic lockdown, it didn't happen then. And I actually feared that I wasn't going to get it, because I was doing the interviews all at the station at the time.
Right.
And it was Nancy McLaughlin that introduced me to Zoom. She said, if she can do Zoom, I can do Zoom. So Nancy was wonderful at that. And it was Carrie Yates, whom I'm connected with through 13 Fanboy, who got me started on Zoom in terms of getting me connected. And she was my first Zoom guest. So anyway, with Nancy Allen, one of the things I did do is I knew she was part of a We Spark cancer charity after Wendy Jo Sperber had passed away, and I made a donation to that, and that got her attention, and
Oh yeah, I loved Wendy Jo Sperber.
she's hilarious.
Did you ever see? She made an appearance in Bachelor Party. I'm sure you
Yep,
saw that.
yep, I've got
But
that here.
one movie that I don't know if you've seen that she was in was called Moving Violation.
Yeah, her and Fred Willard, yes.
Right, and uh, James Murray, Bill Murray's brother,
Yep, John
and
Murray, yep.
my favorite my favorite line in that movie was from Wendy Jo Sperber when she said, the doctor thinks I'm a hypochondriac. How can I be a hypochondriac when I'm sick all the time?
I think Wendy Jo Sperber was very daring. She was very funny. It's sad she's gone, and she started the We Spark cancer charity, and she was in a couple of movies with Nancy Allen. I Want to Hold Your Hand and 1941, and they remain friends. And Nancy is now an executive on that. And I've had people say, accuse me of paying for an interview. When you're given to a charity, I think I don't consider that paying for an interview, because charity is a little different subject. Given to a charity doesn't mean you're going to get the interview, but it certainly helps make a connection, and they remember you for it. That helped me in getting Jessica Harper on the show as well. So
Yeah, I have rules on that on my podcast. One, we're not going to pay you to be on the show. Two, we don't record; it's always live. And three, we won't send you questions in advance, because when you do that, it sounds scripted. because if you know what I'm going to ask you, you're already going to have an answer prepared, so it's not going to come out natural. So those are the three rules that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst example I had, like this last week and next week, I had three individuals booked, and they said, "Did you uh, have you sent the payment?" I said, "What payment?" They said, "Well, we're not going to do this unless you pay us." And I said, "Well, I booked you guys 8 months ago. We didn't talk about that then. Now you're coming. You're supposed to be on a show a week from now, and you're telling me that I have to pay you." I said, "That's fine. I'll find somebody else," and I have. It's terrible that that had to happen, but it's like I thought we were going to get you on the show to talk about what you wanted donations and stuff for, not I have to pay you before you come on the show. That just doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, in my case, I made the donation, and that made the connection. And that was when I first had an exchange with them. I did the donation to the charity on my own, because if anything, if any rates, the charity gets helped. But it made a connection between me and those particular individuals, and I was able to have them on the show. Um, I think one of the worst examples for me, um, I know of an actress who's very advocate in dog rescue, and she's a very famous scream queen. And I reached out to get her on the show, and I even made an offer to make a donation to her charity to have her on the show. Whoever it was I connected with wanted to know how much I was donating. I'm like, you don't ask that question. So I was like,
Yeah,
okay, this.
whatever happened to it's the thought that counts. Whatever happened to that? That's a book I'm going to start writing. It's the thought that counts. I could tell you more about that later, but um, it's like I like to get gifts for friends and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm,
Like I don't want to go off topic here, but I got one individual that says, "Well, you shouldn't be buying me stuff
mm-hmm,
because guys don't do that." Well, you're my friend. This is a gift. I'm getting you a gift. I don't expect anything in return.
mm-hmm,
And when I get something for somebody and they tell me that or they give it back to me, I kind of you know I kind of get hurt a little bit by that. It's like I'm trying to do something for you because you're my friend, not because I want you to buy me something or I want you to give me something in return, or I'm trying to get something, or I'm trying to buy your friendship. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm doing
mm-hmm.
something nice. Whatever happened to that? I mean, you know, the
Well,
whole niceness thing is gone. Apparently, I don't know.
how I handled this, I didn't book this person, but I got somebody else from that same movie on. So that's how I handled that. But
Right.
I'm not going to flat out pay somebody to come on my show. Charity is one thing I don't mind, but I'm not going to flat out pay somebody to come on my show. And sometimes it's ridiculous too. I had somebody that I had on my show in 2017, and had a great interview with this individual, wonderful guy. I reached out for the anniversary of a movie he was in, um, last year. Actually, the movie was having its anniversary in 2020, but due to the lockdown, I couldn't do it then. So I reached out last year, and I didn't get him. I think it was his wife, um, come on there and said it would be $800 for half an hour. And I'm like, I had him for free in 2017. I'm like, I don't think so.
$800 for a half hour.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to make that much money. you know,
Yeah.
um, it's kind of like when I had she didn't charge me. She's been a friend of mine for a long time. Her name is Ashley Page, and she's a world famous bikini designer. As a matter of fact, she had a TV show that lasted one season called Bikini or Bust.
Mm-hmm.
And I found her on Facebook, and I talked to her about my rescue dog at the time, and we became good friends. And when my dog passed, I did a little video, and I sent it to her. And she says, anytime that you want to talk or I can do anything, I can talk to you about dog rescue. Call me. And I got her on the show, and that also led to having Scott Schwartz on my show.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Scott Schwartz was Flick on Christmas Story. He's the guy that froze his tongue to the pole in
Yeah,
the
I
movie.
haven't had him on. I got to get him. I've had Zach Ward on from A Christmas Story. He was going some Postal as well for Uwe Boll, but I've had Zach Ward on a couple of times. I like him. I hadn't had Schwartz on. I wouldn't mind getting him on. Talk to him
I can probably hook that up for you.
Oh, I'd appreciate that. Yeah. Yep.
And I know that you've had more. Your list of celebrities that you've had on the show is definitely higher than mine. But when it comes to stars and stuff, like one of my favorite interviews that we did was Richard Pryor Jr. He wrote the book In a Prior Life, and he told us how Richard Pryor's uh, wife that he had when she passed froze them all out of their stuff, so they get no money from their father's estate. They have no um, financial ties to his likeness, his name, or anything. She has it all. She has frozen them all out.
Oh, wow. There's another person I should reach out to because when people passed away, I do tribute interviews. Like I've had Alfred Hitchcock's granddaughter on the show. I've had Audrey Hepburn's eldest son on the show. Rowdy Roddy Piper's son Cole and daughter Ariel.
A good friend of mine. Yes.
Yeah, I'm still in touch with Ariel. I got an autograph of hers, and I always get cameos from her every year. Boy, she's beautiful. I think Ariel's gorgeous, but she did a Doubtfire face challenge for me for suicide and depression awareness. So that was fun. That involved her taking a pie in the face, and that was fun
Wow.
getting her to do that. So I love Ariel, and anyway, I've had Sarah Karloff on, and Bela Lugosi Jr., and I've done 3 tributes on Ray Harryhausen because I love Clash of the Titans, the original. And Zoe Tamerlis Lund, I've had from Miss 45. Her widow's been on 5 times, and I learned a lot about that woman. So that's what I do. So yeah, I'd be open to doing something Richard Pryor. So yeah, I didn't know that though. I don't know why you freeze somebody out of. I mean, that's his offspring.
Right. And yeah, and he sent me his book, which was really cool, and I read it, and and the thing about, like, the shows that we do, you and I have, my, like I say, started out as a wrestling. I mean, it's still a wrestling show because it's still called Attitude Era Live, but I kind of branched out, because in the WWE, what do they have during WrestleMania? They have celebrities, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
figured, let me get some celebrities. And most everybody that I've asked to be on the show has been decent and kind. And her name escapes me now, but you've seen the movie Roadhouse, I'm assuming, with Patrick Swayze.
No, I haven't heard anything good about it.
Oh. Well, we had the one gal that did, in the movie. She did a striptease for Patrick Swayze, right?
Okay.
And she was also in Point Break with Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze and Gary Busey. And she mentioned in both movies, she was topless both times. I said, "Well, do you think that's coincidence? Because you're in a movie with Patrick Swayze, you're topless both times?" And she'd mentioned, I said, "How many takes did it take to do the one scene that she did in Roadhouse?" And she said 27. I'm like, "Really?" And she said, yeah, it's like I do my whole thing, and then someone like tip over a chair or cough or something, so I'd have to get dressed again and do it all over again. I said, you think they were doing that on purpose? She was just a great interview. She's an awesome person.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know somebody we both have in common. Let me see.
Oh yeah, yes, Princess
Princess
Victoria.
Victoria. Yeah. I got a t-shirt of hers as well. I'm in the midst of reading this, and I actually was talking to her this morning online because I'm going to be ordering a signed photo of her and Velvet McIntyre, and because I didn't know who Princess Victoria was. I was fascinated with Velvet McIntyre from that first Survivor series, and Velvet was so innovative and so creative, and I wanted to get Velvet on the show. And of course, there's a Facebook page with her and Velvet, and I heard back from Princess Victoria, and found out that Velvet had some issues with her hearing, and I wouldn't be able to have her on the show. And I left it for a while, and then I got thinking, why not invite her on? And I started looking her up. And as entertaining as Velvet was, uh, Princess Victoria was just as entertaining. And I must have spent some 2 or 3 hours watching the both of them in tag matches and watching her in solo matches. And I was like, okay, I want to get Princess Victoria on the show. And I've had her on twice now, and I'm going to have her on again so I can get the details on this book. So I've talked to her a few times, and I'm really glad. I gotta say, had it not been for me wanting to interview Velvet, I would have never discovered Princess Victoria, and
Well,
that would have been.
when you talk to her, tell her the icon said hello, and if she says who, just remember. Oh, just remembers the guy in North Dakota that said that you were his aunt. Yeah. Then she'll. Oh yeah, yeah. I when I was a kid, I told everybody she was my aunt,
Uh-huh.
and they always said, "Well, when's she going to pick you up from school?" I said, "She's too busy kicking butt in the ring, man. She's not going to come pick me up from school." And
Mm-hmm.
then she told me, she said, "Why did you call me? I would have picked you up from school." you know.
She is a lot of fun, and she's very, very blunt, very honest, and I love that. She doesn't beat around the bush on how she feels about Moolah or Vince or even Hogan. you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, she. I don't know if you saw the Dark Side of the Ring.
Yes, I did.
Um, and I'm like, hey, I've had her on my show 3 times now, and I got her booked again. In my show we have what they call, and I know that you've had multiple people on, but
Mm-hmm.
we have what they call the Five Timers Club.
Uh-huh.
You've been on the show 5 times. You're part of the Five Timers Club. And I think we have 8 members of that now, but you have probably a what 30, 40 that are on your Five Timers Club.
Me? No. No. I wouldn't have had many on 5 times. I've had Scotty McCoy on 6. Debbie Sue Voorhees has been on 5. I've had Jim Valente, who's the author of Blood Passions. He's been on 5 times, 4 times solo and once with another guest. Belinda Belaski has been on 5 times from The Howling, 4 times solo and once with Mary Lynn Ross. There might be 1 or 2 others. Oh, yeah, TJ Doyle. Is he a 5-timer now? He might be. I'd have to look that up.
It's
If
funny
not,
when you get all the guests, they all kind of run together, don't they?
Well, I have some that do come on every year, Um, I've had people say with this good a friendship I have with Lisa, they're surprised she hasn't been on many times, but I also know what Lisa's schedule is like. So I'm lucky to have her on twice, but she is going to come on again this year. At least that's the plan. But yeah, I've had a few multiple uh timers come on here. So and then there's people,
And
yeah.
they become
Oh,
friends for life. You know.
Zoe Tamerlis Lund, I did 5 tributes on her, which all with Robert Lund, her widow. So um, that's a 5-timers club tribute, because not only was
Right.
Robert on 5 times, I classify Zoe, since it's a tribute on her, she's a tribute 5-timer. So yeah, I've never actually stopped and thought about that. Actually, if I look through my playlist here on my on my YouTube, I'll see whether TJ Doyle's been on. Yeah, he's a 5-timer. Yeah, I had him on for 5th time this year. Okay.
And and the cool thing about having all these guests is, like I mentioned, they become friends for life. You know,
Yep.
and there's only been one that I would never have on my show again. I'm sure you've had. I don't know if you had the experience, but if, Stevie Ray from Harlem Heat.
Mm-hmm.
I invited him on my show, and you know, I mean, you know how the format goes. I start out, I ask the questions, and we do the roundtable, and come back to me. Then when Granny came on, he said, "Well, Granny, how come you're not the one that's hosting the show? Why is he? Why aren't you?" And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I kind of like took a little, I kind of, maybe I shouldn't have, but I kind of like took offense to this. It's like she's not hosting the show because it's my show,
Mm-hmm.
not her show. You know, and don't get me wrong, Granny is just a big part of what we do uh, in any capacity. I mean, and the sad thing is, we had a listener poll of people vote for your favorite host. Granny got 99%. I got 1%.
Well, you can't argue with Granny.
No, because she'll hit you with a hurricane.
Oh yeah. Nope.
Uh,
I had fun talking to her, but
and she
no,
actually started out as a caller on our show too. She just called in one day. I said, "Would you want to be part of this thing?" She said, "Sure." And then she's been with us ever since.
I had a cringy interview back in January, and uh it was with Peter New, who was a Canadian, and I had him on because he was a Canadian actor and voice actor. And I know that the Black Christmas remake, which is pretty terrible, but I knew that he was in that, and he was in Scooby Doo Monsters Unleashed, and we got into a section of that interview where I don't want to fault him. I was happy to have him on the show, but we got talking about Scooby Doo Monsters Unleashed, and I said to him, and I didn't think I was being disrespectful, but because I've asked this question to guests before, especially when it comes to females. I asked him if Sarah Michelle Gellar was as beautiful in person as she appears on the screen, and I didn't think I was being disrespectful, but he said he's not going to answer that question. He said he found it degrading and blah blah blah. And he said, you can edit this part out. And I'm like, I don't know how to edit this out. So no, I'm not going to edit this out. But it's kind of like, I didn't mean it in a like if I had said something about part of her body or something like that, I could see him acting like that. But I think I said something flattering. And he says,
Right,
you'd never say that about me. And no, because I'm not into guys.
right,
But I mean, it's like I'm straight. Not that I'm have any issues of somebody that would ask him, but I mean, I wouldn't expect anybody to say it to me, but I didn't mean anything by it. but I can think of a million different ways that that could have been swerved as opposed to making an uncomfortable situation. And that wasn't fun. And uh I was happy to have him on the show, but that was not exactly my most pleasant moment. It was very awkward, and I tried to avoid those. And what you
Well,
had
yeah,
there.
I'll admit I hate that when someone takes what I say out of context.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, what I said was this, or I meant it like this. I didn't mean it like that,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when you lose, when you lose that guess because they took something you said out of context, it's very hard to bring them back in, you know. And whether you whether you meant it or not, yes, they took it out of context, and that's not your fault. But they're like, okay, let's just move on, or
Oh,
we got
I managed to move it on, but I mean, I met, as I said, Michelle Gellar's an attractive woman. I mean, anybody can see that, I mean, it wasn't meant to be bad.
right,
Yep. I mean, I've heard podcasters say worse things to people. So,
right,
yeah. So basically, I thought it was complimenting her, but it did have put me in a position where I got to think about stuff I say. But
right.
yep. But I remember, like I had a similar conversation with Sean Clark. And this one was positive. We got talking about some of his clientele, and I mentioned Catherine Mary Stewart, who I've had on the show a couple times. And I said, she doesn't seem to age. She's still as beautiful as she was back when she did the Apple. And he said, yeah. And he said, so was Barbara Crampton. She doesn't age either. And again, nothing disrespectful. We're talking about how these women, as far as I know, have no work done on themselves and they still look great.
Right.
It's
And I'll tell you what, Kathleen Mary Stewart, boy, I'd love to have her on my show. I fell in love with her in the movie Mischief. It's of course,
well, I
that movie's famous for other reasons too. But
I can try to connect you with her if you would like.
I would love that. That would be awesome. You know,
Okay. All right.
I mean, the cool thing about us now. Correct me if I'm wrong, or I don't. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like, your show is awesome. Of course, you've been doing it since how long? You been doing your show now? Since you said,
the podcast part I've been doing since 2015.
yeah, we started in, I believe, 2016, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's been a great roller coaster ride, but we've had, ups and downs and peaks and valleys. But, my ultimate goal is to be able to just do the radio show, and that's it. I don't know how Conrad Thompson does it, but he has eight podcasts, and he's a millionaire with his pot. Well, I mean, he's also a financial guru, but he's got eight different podcasts with eight different wrestling celebrities, and he's making money on all of them. It's like, hey, how can I show me how to get the Conrad Thompson rub just once? you know?
Well, I don't make money at mine. I wouldn't mind, but the same token, I really just enjoy doing this. It's just fun. So especially when I make connections with a guest I really wanted to have on, and it's just awesome. Especially if you watch a particular movie, knowing that I made a connection with this person, had them on the show. It's personal. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that for me was Tanya McClure. She was in all those um, adult soft core movies. You know what I'm referring to?
Hmm.
Um, and I remember she was in a movie called Scorn 2, and I found her on Facebook, and I sent her a message, kind of like what we talked about a little while ago. And I sent her a message, and I said I'd love to have you on my show, and she wrote me back 3 or 4 days later, and I said, could I get a contact number? And I called her and I talked to her. I said, my favorite role of yours was Scorn 2, when you were they were trying to catch you, and what you did was you turned on the hair dryer, threw it in the tub, and you electrocuted the gal that was trying to. And I'm like, so I'm gonna tread lightly because I know what you're capable of. And she's like, well, if that's what we're gonna talk about, sure. I'm like, I said, no, I'll never be in I'll never take a bath when you're near. Don't worry about
Yeah.
that.
My next question for you would be, what is the most, and this might be a hard question, but what is the most rewarding experience you had having a guest on?
Well, let me see. That is a tough question.
Mhm.
I guess probably the most rewarding is being able to connect with those that you consider your heroes. And there's a lot I haven't had on the show, but there's some that I had that have led me to get others. Um, like for instance, I had Byron Cherry on our show,
Mhm.
who was uh, Coy Duke. He was one of the replacement Duke boys uh, when
Okay, yep.
uh, when John Schneider and I talked to him about being on the show, and how I always wanted to climb through the window of the General Lee, and he said, "Well, have you had anybody else on the show?" I said, "No." I said, "Well, can you hook me up?" I said, "Yeah, I can pass your information on to John Schneider and to Tom Wolpat, and I haven't had them on yet, but I have had Ben Jones on, who was Cooter, and I'm working on getting Sonny Schroyer on with us.
You get
Um,
Catherine Botch.
Catherine Bach. Oh, geez. I see. Here's the thing. I had Catherine Bach on the Ben and Jim show, but I
Mhm.
haven't had her on this show. And somewhere in my collection, she actually sent me a pair of autographed Daisy Dukes. I'd like to find those somewhere. I don't know where they are. And I'm trying to remember. There was an episode of the Dukes of Hazard. Where they had two basset hounds, and the little kid that they got the basset hound for, I cannot remember his name, but he was back in his day when he was a kid. He was on Different Strokes. He was in Mr. Belvedere. He was on Who's the Boss. He starred in the show Salute Your Shorts, uh, and and I cannot remember the red. I for the life of me, I can't remember his name. Uh, I just remember he was a redhead, and he was in every single TV show in the '80s that you can think of, even MacGyver. Um, Being able to talk to him was awesome, and having the actor who played Wormser in Revenge of the Nerds. Um, I asked him. I said, "So when you guys were filming the scene, when you were spying on the girls, you were watching them on TV, nude and everything. What was that like?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "What do you mean you don't know?" He said, "Well, because we weren't really watching it on TV. Actually, we were watching in front of a box with a green and red light that would turn on and off to make it look like we were watching something. I didn't actually get to see the girls nude until we did the premiere at the." I'm like,
I
man, you just ruined my childhood.
I haven't had worms that are on. I reached out. I haven't heard back, but I did have Julia Montgomery on from that film, and
Oh,
she
really?
yeah.
Betty Childs,
Hmm.
my favorite line. Hey, that's my pie, you know.
Well, I asked her. I said, I guess she said that I guess her folks were overly impressed when it was her naked picture that was being sprayed with the whipped cream, and people were licking it. And she's got a great spirit to her, though, But
Yeah, I mean, I do anything to get her on my show, but I wouldn't, I talked to her a little bit about Revenge of the Nerds, but I would talk to her mostly about my all-time favorite film, Up the Creek. She was in that with Tim Matheson, Stephen First, uh, and you
you
know,
know what? I've got Up the Creek here. It's a memory film, but I got to admit, watching it now, I see all the flaws. Number one, Tim Madison and Stephen First, love them in Animal House, but it's like they were trying to repeat the same thing here, and it just,
well, yeah,
for me, wasn't working.
well, they had all the graduates in that movie. They had graduates of that Animal House and Porky's in this movie.
Yeah. I don't know. I really like the military guy that kept screwing up, and trying to get his troops in line, and I liked him. But I mean, at the creek, something I would watch, and it's like, this is a memory from years ago, back in the '80s, because I'm gonna be 50 this year, so I remember a lot of these growing up. But from a critical standpoint, I'm like, ah, um, Tim Madison and Stephen First, love them, but they're not making a stretch here. It's basically Otter and Flounder taking a rafting trip with two other guys. So
Right, and of course,
yeah,
my favorite Stephen First movie is actually a movie called Midnight Madness. It was actually Michael
yeah.
J. Fox's first film ever. See now, I every time I talk about this stuff, it's like I'm like dating myself because I'm like, what movie was that? What do you know?
I know what you're talking about, Midnight Madness. Yeah, Eddie Deason was in that. I've had him on here too.
Oh yeah, I've been trying to get him for years. I keep sending him messages and I never get a response back.
Eddie, I
See,
got
here's the thing.
Eddie, I got through
Go ahead.
somebody else, so I don't think I'd be able to help you with him. Because when
Because I would talk to him about war games in
oh
Greece
yeah,
one
Eddie
and two.
told Eddie told some interesting stories about Greece in about 1941. He has most interesting stories about those two films. But yeah, he was a great guy. I know when I spoke to him, he was at I called him at a hotel or something like that. That's where he was located, and so I don't know if I'd be much help in connecting you with him. But he was, if you can get him, he's a great interview.
Yeah, like I said, I'd ask him about war games.
Yep.
Uh, and it's amazing. A lot of these people that uh, a perfect example of that Bruce McGill. And like I say, sure, pull me back if I'm going off topic, but Bruce McGill, of course, he's really famous for being Jack
D-Day.
Dalton on MacGyver. And they had a movie several years ago called the movie 61 about Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle in the 61 season, done by Billy Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Roger Maris is from Fargo. And they had, they brought Thomas Jane here. They brought Billy Crystal here. They brought Barry Pepper here. And I thought, geez, they might bring Bruce McGill here. And of course, they never did. Uh, you know, and I remember meeting when Billy Crystal was here. Of course, like I say, he directed the film. Uh, he really kind of put me through the ringer a little bit. I introduced myself as the icon, and he said, "So you're the icon now? So I bet in high school your nickname was Pick Him Last." And huh? I'm like, okay. Oh man, it's just all the people that I've got to meet through that tournament. Like once a week during the summer, I get to be part of the Roger Maris's family. the boys and his daughters and his wife, his widow, Pat.
Oh, look at that. Look who decided to join.
Oh, you got a little kitty.
Hi, Skittles. Skittles says, you're using me for hits. This is exploiting. Say, Kitty, you're living here for free. Skittles like he's not impressed. Skittles, it's been so
I should have
long.
brought my cat out.
My guests love it when you come on screen. Skittles is like, I'm not a star. You're exploiting me.
Have you had her since a little kitten?
No, this is a rescue. He's my buddy.
Oh,
He's my
okay.
buddy. He hates it when I do this, though.
Ugh.
Skittles is like, look, you got me on screen. You're
Yeah,
exploiting me.
yeah, I got a little cat too. Name is Midget. Of course, she's not a midget anymore, but um, yeah, cats are awesome, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm gonna put him down because oh, now he's running away. He's like, you exploited me. See if he come over and rub against my finger. Skittles is like, you exploited me.
I love the name too, Skittles. I love that
That was
name.
his name when I got him. It's funny. Skittles is a colorful candy, and he's a black and white cat. I find that funny. But
Well,
yeah,
yeah, I thought maybe his name was like Sylvester or something. You know,
nope. Skittles was his name when I got him. Yep,
that's awesome.
he's my roommate here, and he doesn't pay any rent. I don't know.
That's
Good
awesome.
thing. Yeah, but I guess my next question would be, you touched upon this with Stevie Ray, but talk about guests that you tried to, is there any guests that you refused because they were, and I think we talked about this offline before, but guests that were rude?
Well, one I guess would be the honky tonk man.
Mm-hmm.
I sent him a message and he says to me, well, you know what? I'm not going to do Mama Basement Radio. It's like, okay, one, we're on ESPN New York and we're on Ken's FM. We're not. I mean, it started out as a podcast, not really a podcast anymore because we're on the air, And I don't live in my mama's basement, uh, and this and that. And the thing about the honky tonk man is, you know, uh, when's the last time you ever heard of the honky tonk man? It's not like he's a raging star anymore. Uh, and I said, well, hey, that's fine. You don't want to come on the show, that's fine. I understand that, but don't insult me. And the Ultimate Warrior beat you in 15 seconds. So, so I got the last word on that. And another bad experience was Virgil from the WWE. He said, "Yeah, I can come on your show, but how much you going to pay me?"
Oh my freak! Did you see the thing I just posted on my Facebook? Because I got a lot of laugh emojis from it, and I just saw it. Virgil has this thing where he shows up to cons and sets up a table, even though apparently he's never been invited. He sets up and nobody, they call him Lonely Virgil. If you look at the videos, there's videos online, just type in Lonely Virgil. And Scott Hall, aka Razor Ramon, comes over. He's videoed himself talking about Virgil selling merchandise, like photos, and it's never just Virgil. It's Virgil with Andre the Giant, Virgil with the $1 Million Man, Virgil with various people, but it's never just Virgil. And Virgil is like, well, I got the action figure, and yeah, but the only way people Scott Hall was like, the only way people will recognize it if it's laying on its back. That's the only
Yeah.
appropriate way you recognize it. Virgil, I don't think was impressed, but apparently I've heard complaints about Virgil here's the story. Apparently, Virgil coaches people over to his table, and he asks them what picture they like best, and they'll casually say, "Oh, this one's cool," and then he'll ask them what their name is, and he'll write their name, he'll autograph it to them, but they never said they wanted to buy it. And
Oh,
this is
really?
something, yeah, this is something I've heard. If you go online and you type in on YouTube Lonely Virgil, you'll hear these stories, and the stories are pretty funny. But if I was to see Virgil at a con, I would avoid him for reasons just like that.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Scott Hall, Razor Ramon. There's a few things from Razor Ramon's character that when I go to sports events, his persona is part of mine. I have, as you see on my profile picture, I always wear a whole bunch of chains when I go to a sporting event, and I have my long hair that I put up in permanent, like he had,
Hmm.
because there's a lot of Scott Hall in the Icon's persona, and it has to do with the hair and the chains, and I always loved Scott Hall. That's one guy that I would love to get on board with us. Um, and I was so close to getting him things when we had DDP as a guest on our show, and of course he DDP, great guy, and I love him. I'll never say anything bad about him. But the thing is, we couldn't talk to him about wrestling. We had to talk to him about DDP yoga, and I actually got him because I tried to get his wife, and not Kimberly, but his now she's now his third ex-wife. I said, she says, I'm not Kimberly, right? I said, I know, but you're more beautiful than she is. And she said, hey, let me hook you up with Dallas. And that's how I got Diamond Dallas on the show, because I still think that his third wife is more beautiful than his second wife and his first wife. Of course, now he's divorced again, so you know,
Well, I like Diamond Dallas Page, but I'd be more interested in Jake the Snake Roberts.
yeah, they got a new podcast together now.
Yeah, I know. I've been listening.
Yeah,
Actually,
DDP Snake Pit.
yeah, I've actually got I grew up with these. I love the old LGN figures, and I went to a con not too long ago, and I must have bought a bunch of them. And I'll tell you, the bag I had was just weighed down with wrestling figures. I got a Jake.
That's awesome.
I got a Jake the Snake Roberts. I
That's
got a
one guy I could hook you up with.
Jake.
I had a guy. No. I'd love to be able to have Jake on the show, but 4 weeks ago I had a guy that actually makes the figurines on my show.
Hook me up.
I would love to. He would love to do shows for you. He
Because
makes all the
I
things.
love these. You can't break these,
Yeah, he makes figurines like that, and he's gonna do a figurine for me. He's gonna make one of Granny Hulkster. He's gonna make one of.
Is one of my
yeah,
favorites.
that's who's that?
It's Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Okay, see, I'm having issues seeing because I don't have my glasses on. I have my shades on, and
Yeah.
I hope that my shades aren't distracting either. But I have a tendency when I'm on camera to have my eyes closed all the time, so I always like to mask it with my shades.
And speaking, this was one that they did make from Etsy. I don't know if this is the guy you're talking about, but I got this Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig one that they did. Because
Yeah,
he what
of course he's from Minnesota, and I met Larry the Axe several years ago.
well, I'd be happy to interview the guy that makes these figurines, because I know they did a Scott Hall one. I
Well,
haven't got
he
it.
can make a figurine of you.
Oh, that'd be cool. One of my favorites, Rowdy
Roddy
Roddy
Piper.
Piper. Yeah, Rowdy
Now, let me ask
Piper.
you this: is there a wrestler that you despise or despise?
Yeah,
Who is it?
Shawn
Let's know one.
Michaels.
Really? Now,
I
see,
am.
I was always except when he was in DX, of course. But Shawn Michaels when he was with the Rockers, that is, uh, I don't have an issue with the guy I dislike the most. Will always be H H H
Triple H.
Triple H, and that reminds me. Speaking of Shawn Michaels, that's another guy that was kind of jerky, Marty Jannetty.
Look, my issue with Shawn Michaels, and I've always had a problem with this, and people always tell me get over it, but no. Like I'll tell you, the Iron Sheik, for example, he never actually spit on the American flag. He always spit on the mat, but he was always playing that heel character. Love the Iron Sheik. Shawn Michaels, when he had that big feud with Bret Hart during the Montreal Screwjob, Shawn Michaels grabbed the Canadian flag from somebody. He rubbed it on his crotch. He blew his nose on it. He spit on it. He stomped on it.
And he fornicated with it.
I wanted to beat the shit out of him. So, but people say, well, Greg, you couldn't do that. Well, you know what? If somebody told me, like, maybe I couldn't, I mean, I know Haku can fight a Marine, but I know that Shawn Michaels got his ass handed to him by one because,
Five of them.
but I never liked Shawn Michaels after that because
Did you ever see that DVD he did with Bret Hart?
yeah, I saw that. Here's the thing. If Bret Hart had a did that to the American flag, they would have been calling for his head.
Right. Well, and I had talked to I had his ex-wife on my show, Julie,
Mm-hmm.
and she told us about how bad things were at home during that time. I mean, Brett was having affairs and this and that, and it's hard to hear that about one of your heroes. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
was always a Bret Hart fan, even though he was anti-American.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time I wasn't a Stone Cold fan, I was still a Bret Hart fan.
Mm-hmm.
But Julie, if you ever have a chance to read her book, Heartstrings, it's a very good read. And she told us how she sent them the manuscript. She sent maybe 500-600 pages, and they sent the book back to her, and it was 100 pages. They edited all the wrestling stuff out and just talked about her relationship with the Hitman,
Yeah.
which was very interesting. It's a great book. As a matter of fact, I have an autographed copy. I should send it to you so you can read it.
No, no, don't send me it. That's your autograph book, but I mean, I can find a way to read it. But that's my issue with Shawn Michaels. Now I've heard, he's become a Christian and stuff like that, but which is fine. I despise what he did. Now, I would say about 5 years ago, if I saw him at a con, I probably would have said something nasty to him or whatever, or told him to fuck off or something. Now I probably wouldn't say anything, it's like what number one, why spoil it for those that want to meet him? And number two, that was 1997 that happened, and it would just look foolish for me. But if you want to know who I despise, yeah, Shawn Michaels, because it was it's cheap heat. That's what Princess Victoria described that as, cheap heat, and that's what that was. I'm actually surprised because I know people were shoving at Sean as he was going up the aisle. I'm surprised that people didn't jump the barricade and just beat the living hell out of him, and he would have
Yeah.
deserved it. But
Well,
Sean
yeah, I
is,
remember in that DVD when Bret Hart said, you know why they hate you in Canada? It's not because of what you did to me. It's because of what you did to the Canadian flag. That's why they hate you in Canada.
yep. And there was no call for that at all. And I was pissed when I saw that, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, there's only one thing in Canada I have an issue with. And I know you're not a sports guy, uh, but I have issues because, out here in Fargo Moorhead, we have our baseball team, the Red Hawks,
Mhm.
and our arch rival is the Winnipeg Gold Eyes. I love everything about Canada except for the Winnipeg Gold Eyes.
I have no dog in that fight, you know. So but as far as Sean as a wrestler, I thought he was fine. Um I I I didn't see him like when he and Janetti were together, I was like, they both did the same kind of moves. Like one was no different than the other from what I could see, you know. But
Well, yeah, they were mirror images, but
you know, like
Marty Jannetty was just a jerk when it came to. I thought I had him booked, and then we agreed on the date, this and that,
mhm,
and then I said send a thumbs up to confirm,
mhm.
and he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not going to make it." Huh? And I'm like, I don't know why I was devastated about that, but it's like
Did you
when someone says they're going to be on the show, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not going to be making it." I guess I take certain issues with that.
did you ask if he wants to
And maybe I
reschedule
should.
or something like that?
Yeah, I did, and he said, "No, I'm just not going to make it." Okay, fine,
Wow.
move on.
I'd take issue with that too.
But the funniest one we had, Jack O'Halloran, who of course was in the first.
I've had him on.
Uh, did he tell you about his deal with the Comic Cons?
No, I had him on back in 2017. We talked a lot about Superman 2 and the Donner cut stuff like that in his book. No, we didn't talk
Mm-hmm.
about what happened.
Well, he said the first time he was invited to a Comic Con, he said there's like, I really didn't want to go because I was like, I'm gonna have to be dealing with all these guys dressed like Trekkies, and they're gonna be flashing me the this and that, and go Beasley baby. Like I don't like. Then he got there's like there was no Trekkies there. There was one guy dressed up like him. Like, okay, I'll continue doing these.
Oh yeah, he was
In fact,
great.
he's going to be back on a show in 2 weeks.
Hmm.
He's going to be back on with us talking about his boxing career with how Muhammad Ali wouldn't fight him.
Oh yeah, we talked about stuff like that when I had him on. That was yeah, he was actually my second guest in 2017. So I remember that well. But yeah, I've had some pretty good luck with guests, and I've given people advice on how to get people, you know. Um, and then of course, you know, you get these ones that are normally I don't have, exception of the situation with the Black Christmas guy, the 2006 Black Christmas guy. I haven't had really much in terms of bad encounters on here, you know. Most people are pretty good. Even the guy from the Black Christmas 2006, um, I had a great chat with him. It's just that one section of the interview I didn't care for, but I mean, I'm still going to post it. I was happy to have him.
Like you said, the sad thing is you can't edit the stuff. You have to just go with it.
You know what? I'll let it flow. I'll let it go. You know, it's but it's just one of those situations where it's like, okay, I gotta watch this or watch that because uh I like to try to avoid the confrontations when I can. What I don't like though is when I reach out to somebody and they read my message on Facebook and like if you don't want to do, just say I don't want to do your show and I'll move on from there. But the whole silent thing, I don't care for that either. It's like,
Right.
yeah, but
And one
uh,
of my biggest joys, though, since I started talking to you,
hmm
and I know this may be going off topic too, but uh, you and I have, and correct me if I'm wrong, you and I have developed a friendship over the last couple weeks.
hmm
My biggest joy is being able to hook you up with some of my more interesting interviewers that I think would be interesting for you. Like for instance, Chrissy, for instance.
Oh, I
I
have
mean,
fun talking to her. Yeah. Chrissy Krueger. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you never ever want to tell her bite me because she will.
I forwarded her to Scotty McCoy. Here's one thing that gets me. I've had this issue before is podcasters who only want top tier people. I've
Oh,
had
I
that
hate
issue.
that.
Yep. It's like I'm not a top tier person. It's just like when you asked to have me on your show. I was like, why me? I was honored to do it.
Right.
I did your show. I was happy to do it.
And you
But
obviously don't have an ego like me.
no,
You
you don't
I'm
have an
sure I
ego.
do have an ego. But one person said people mistake my enthusiasm for ego.
I don't think you
Okay.
have an ego. But
Well, I
here's the
appreciate
thing.
that.
Um, I like giving people an opportunity to come on the show because it's like, as somebody who knows a little bit about mental health, you don't want to make somebody feel shitty about themselves. So,
Right.
yeah, I don't like to look at somebody and say you're not worth my time. That's not fun. I've had
And
experiences
for
like,
me, that would be a whole nother subject. I could give you a whole nother interview on that.
yeah. So I try to like I never heard of Granny Halster or Chrissy Krueger prior to you sending them my way. I was happy to have
Deb
them.
Gardner.
Deb Gardner, I got booked for April, so I'm looking forward to that. And I know Scotty's interviewed Granny Halster. He's done that one, and I don't know whether he's done Chrissy Krueger yet or not. If he hasn't, he's going to. But Scotty said he's learned a lot about accepting um, unknowns through me, and I appreciate that because I consider it a privilege to do this.
I'd love
So
to have him do my show, and I love to do his show. I mean, I'll understand if he doesn't want me in his show, but I would love to have him on my show.
you know what? I'm sure Scotty would be totally for it. Scotty's a
Yeah.
great guy. Yep. Um, I'm sure he'd be more than happy. Um, he always interviews people I send his way, and so yeah. And plus, he's also a wrestling fan as well. So yeah. So um,
And one of the things I was going to ask you is like with your show, not that I'm bragging with mine, but I have guest booked from now until the end of 2023.
mhm,
It used to be tough getting guests, but it's funny. There's people that contact me that I've never even heard of, but for some reason they've heard of me,
mhm.
and it's like, uh, of course, the ego in me, like people like you mentioned, I don't have one, but someone say I do. It's like really, and say you have the same experience as me. It's like, how did you find me? How did you hear about me? And they're like, well, my friend you had on told me about you. Said you were a great guy, and Granny Hawkster doesn't like heel wrestlers, and I'm a heel wrestler, and I could put Granny in place. I'm like, well, I don't. I'd kind of have to bilk on that a little bit, but it's just amazing. I my favorite thing about Granny, like I say, we had a friend of hers on, Kelsey Stackhouse, and
Okay.
she called in, and she was actually our first caller. Well, uh, first caller besides me, and I said,
Hmm.
you sound like you got a lot of wrestling knowledge. Would you like to be part of our show every week? And she's like, yeah, why not? So she's been part of our show ever since then. And it's just that when she always talks about not liking the heels, and then we have heel wrestlers on, and then Granny just kind of like, she likes to put them in their place. Because back to Granny, as you probably saw in your interview, it's like, that's the one thing about Granny. She's like, she's got a heart of gold and she's got a fist of steel. You know what I mean? You know.
I should hook you up with Ronnie Angel, who is a wrestler, and he's also wrote a couple slasher film books as well because he's been in some independent horror films. I should
That
hook
would
you
be
up.
awesome.
I should hook you up with him. He's a great guy. And I also interviewed recently Jerry Swirls, who I know only through Teal Piper, Roddy's daughter.
Hmm.
And he's a heel wrestler. Um, I should I should give you I'll give you the Facebook information so you could reach out to them. But
Well, yeah, that'd be cool if you could do that. The sad thing is, that's why I'm going to have you on my show again, because
mhm.
I was only able to have you on for 30 minutes. It's like I know that you had more of a story, and you had more like this. I don't know how long you've been on so far, but I don't know how long you want to go. But the cool thing is, uh, with our format, we're on for 2 hours. We have a 2 hour block on our radio station, and first interview is usually 30 minutes. Second interview is 30 minutes. 9:15, 9:45, then 9:45 to 10:15, and then the last guest is on usually for 45 minutes.
Mhm.
So what I try and do, uh, for those that I think that would have like a lot of callers, or depending on what their time zone is, because as we've found out, time zones are not my strong suit, never ever will be. I always try and book those that are different time zones, uh, in that time frame. And the worst experience I had was, I had no idea that the one guest that I was going to have on was in Germany. And I, if I don't know time zone difference here, whether it be 1 hour or 2 hours, I'm definitely not going to know the time zone difference in Germany, which is 7 hours. you
You want me
know,
to give you some
and
advice?
we're
I'll
sure.
give you some advice. When I reach out to guests, like generally, like just a sec, I'll look onto my Facebook here because generally what I do, let me see. Let me see where somebody I reached out to recently.
Well, let me ask you this: while you're looking it up, are you familiar with Paige from the WWE?
Oh yeah, the
We had her
goth
dad.
girl.
Yeah, we had her dad on with us,
Yeah,
and I actually found him through Facebook after I saw the movie Wrestling with My Family,
yeah.
and I said, "So tell me, the way that you were portraying the movie, how close is that, and what leverage did they take?" He said, "Well, the only thing is, I never ever rolled a bowling ball into a guy's crotch." I said,
No.
"Oh." He said it was a baseball bat. Oh,
Well,
okay.
here's what I do. Generally, when I reach out to people, I introduce myself. I say where I'm from. Like I say, I do a podcast and I mention where I'm from. And I would follow up that I'd be greatly interested in interviewing you via Zoom. And if it's an anniversary, I'll say in honor of the anniversary of such and such. Gives you a little context. And I might say something like I've conducted over such and such amount of interviews, and in my case, I always say I won the CHSR Barry Award for best spoken word show in 2016. And then I follow that up with, if you're interested, I always say, please select dates and times that work best for you, and I'll coordinate accordingly. And I follow that up with, I'll also need your location so that I can schedule around the time zone difference. When I establish that, I can look up where they're from and figure out what time it is where they are in accordance to what time it is I am. And then I can figure out the time zone difference. And then I thank them, and I hope that we can come to an arrangement. Thank you kindly. And I put my name, the name of my show underneath, my email address, and in some cases I put my phone number or my cell phone number. And that's how I do it. It allows me to present myself in a way that's professional, and that works for me, but
Well, yeah, like what I'll do is like when I'll send a message, and it's like, uh, there, you get hisses, you get easy for me to say, you get hits and misses, and lately, like I said, not that I'm bragging, but I've had more hits than misses.
mm-hmm.
But what I'll do is it'll say, sure, when do you want me? And I'll always say, I'll send you some open dates and you can pick. And then when I tell them, okay, how about November 7th, 2022 at 9:15 p.m., they're like, November, or they'll like put like November question mark. And I have to explain, unfortunately, that I'm booked up until then, and I have like one opening each week, and now I'm booked for 2023. And they're like, really? Wow, And the sad thing is, when I book some of these people this far in advance, uh, usually they can set their schedule because I give them 2 or 3 months. You know, the worst thing, and I understand things happen. Like I've had a couple of guests where they had a relative pass away, or they got sick over the weekend and they didn't have their voice. I can understand that kind of stuff happens. But when you say, I decided I'm not going to do the show, it's like, well, you could have told me a week ago, 2 weeks ago, instead of the day before, because now I'm sitting there scrambling, trying to get a guest in place as a backup, which is, it's that's interesting in itself. Most people I have booked for 23, I said, hey, would you like to be on next week? Yeah, why not? And then, it's sometimes easy, sometimes it's difficult, you know. But when you have two guests cancel out in a week that you're supposed to have in the same week, it makes it a little more difficult. But generally, I can usually pull through and get it done, you know.
Yeah. No, that's generally how I do it. But it's always important to find out where they're located so that you can schedule around the time zone, and that's very important. So yeah, like I know where I am. Los Angeles or California is like 4 hours behind me.
Right.
You're 2 hours behind me. So although when I do the Zoom, I ended up having to schedule it on my end. So I always have to explain to the person it's such and such a time, your time / such and such my time. So, sometimes that confuses them, but with Zoom scheduling, it's something that can't be helped, but
Right.
whatever my case may be. But who do you got lined up in the near future that you want to talk about?
Well, let's see. We got Jackal Halloran coming
Mm-hmm.
back on again. Um, uh, I have Miss Hollacker coming on.
Oh yeah, Heidi
Maybe
Holliker. I love her.
Heidi,
Valley Girl.
and unfortunately, because it's like 2 in the morning, it's like I don't have my list here in front of me, but
Hmm.
I have a lot of cool guests coming on that I've been wanting to interview. One thing I was going to ask you, I didn't get to ask you, whether it be past or present, uh, whether they're with us or not. Who would have been, or who is the one person that you want to interview that you've always wanted to interview? Who would that be for you?
For the past, it would be probably Grace Kelly. I'd probably sweat through that, man.
Yeah. For me,
For
it'd be the
pres
Ultimate Warrior.
for present, I think a person I'd want to interview, and I'm not at that tier where it will ever happen. But it's somebody I really like is Emma Stone. I am a big Emma Stone fan, and I
Cruella.
yeah, I've got Cruella here on Blu-ray. Um, I think Emma would be a blast to talk to, and I'd see her in anything, she's just always entertaining to me. And of course it doesn't hurt that she's easy on the eyes.
Right. And for me,
Uh,
that would be, in that case, for me, it'd be Jessica Chastain.
Jessica Chastain, yeah, she's cool. Yeah.
Molly's Game.
I don't know if I've seen that or not.
Oh, I read.
Maybe.
I'll tell you what. I can tell you a few things. It's not going to ruin it, but one of the when I talked to the real Molly Bloom about trying to get her on my show, which I can never get her nailed down, but uh, asked if you look in the research of who some of the, because she didn't in the film, they didn't give the real names who they are, but
Hmm.
the one poker player, the kid is really actually Toby Maguire. That's why Hollywood blackballed him, because of that poker scam. A couple others that were part of her game were Alex Rodriguez, A Rod. Um, it's just amazing uh, how the poker princess, as she's called, had all these people playing her poker game, which was really interesting. You know, she wouldn't mention it in the book, but
I have seen
Wikipedia sure
Molly's
did.
Game. Yeah, I have seen Molly's Game because I review movies as well, and yeah, I got that listed here. I know which one you're talking to. Some of these movies they run together, but apparently I liked it. But
Yeah.
I saw it in the theater. That I do know because that's the only time I do a review of them. But I do like Jessica Chastain though, so I think she's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait for that new movie of yours. I think it's what is it, 335 or 355 or something like that.
I saw that. That was the first one I reviewed this year, and uh I like the cast. I think it's better than a lot of critics thought it was, but the same token, it's um it's not great either.
Right.
If you're a big action film fan, you might find some joy in it. I've seen better. Um, I thought the cast was the best part of it. So yeah. Um, if you see it on Netflix, check it out. It's not terrible. It's just I don't think it's memorable. Yeah.
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 There's a lot of movies that have not been memorable.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, I like Jessica Chastain. She's pretty cool. So there you
Yeah.
go. But I don't know. I think Emma Stone for current celebrities, she'd be somebody I'd want to sit down and talk to.
Yeah,
So
I loved in Cruella, especially the trash can, the dumpster, the dump truck dress is what I call it.
yeah, yeah. No, like I said, I've been following Emma Stone since she was in Superbad, which was her first film, and I've been following her ever since. I'd say been a good, yeah, 15 years. So I had a crush on her then. I still have a crush on her now. So there you go.
That's awesome.
I was happy when she won the Oscar for La La Land. And quite frankly, I mean, she's been nominated 2 other times, but I think she'll probably be one of these ones to win again. I think Emma has got a lot of range, because if you look at her filmography, she's pretty much been in every genre, or close to it. So
And unfortunately, like Walt Disney movies usually don't win any Oscars or anything. But that the thing about Cruella, if that does not win for best costumes, there's something wrong there. I mean, can you name a movie that had better costumes than that one in 2021? There wasn't one, in my opinion.
I would have to look, but I'm glad it's up for a couple of these. I don't know. I'd have to see. So, but yeah, it had some great costumes in it. I thought she was great as Cruella. What I loved about it is I know that Glenn Close had played Cruella in the other live action one, and I wasn't a fan of those, but I thought Glenn Close did a great job playing Cruella. But thing is, through Fatal Attraction, Glenn Close can play crazy. It's
Right.
really, I was quite interested to see Emma Stone play Cruella. I was like, okay, I'm hooked. I want to see what she does with it.
And I actually thought she did it better than Glenn Close. I mean, I love Glenn Close. Don't get me wrong. My favorite role of Glenn Close will always be Air Force One when she was
I hated Air
vice
Force
president.
One. Oh, I hate
Really?
it. Yeah. Look, that movie was so preposterously dumb, because I mean, it's just like with Independence Day. You're not going to have the president fly against the aliens. You're not going to have the president single-handedly fight the terrorists. I remember when Independence Day came out, we had a neighbor down the road from us who was a German professor, and he said he was on a plane trip, and he said there was this elderly woman sitting beside him, and Independence Day, I guess, was playing, and on the plane, and she described it as a little boys movie. I don't like Independence Day either, but I'll say this: as far as Air Force One goes in Independence Day, the German professor said if that was the Prime Minister of Canada fighting against the aliens, or fighting on the plane against the terrorists, Canada would be the laughing stock. And it's like, I love Harrison Ford, but Air Force One, I don't. I'm not buying the premise, and it's like didn't work for me. That's where I
Okay,
stand
I'll
on
go with
that.
that.
Yeah,
I'll go with that.
you know, um, it's just like at the time Brian Maroney was our prime minister, and he said, "Could you imagine Brian Maroney flying against the aliens or fighting on Air Force One?" I said, "No, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it." And I get it too. It's like,
Well, I guess
you're
the reason why I like that movie is because I love Will Smith.
Will
That's
Smith was
why I watch it.
okay. Will Smith was a good standout in Independence Day, but it's like, like, I don't know, didn't care for it.
And then just think the next summer he fought aliens again in Men in Black.
Well, Men in Black was not only was it a better film, but it was a lot more creative, so
Right.
yeah, I like that one a lot better. But that's where I stand on that. I like Harrison Ford, didn't care for Air Force One, you know.
I hate to say it, but my wife thinks Harrison Ford is sexier than me. But
I think your wife would probably find Harrison Ford sexier than me too. I mean, it's Harrison Ford. Most
all right.
women are probably going to go with Harrison Ford. He's pushing 80 years old and still looks better than I do.
All right.
But you
and
know,
he did send me an autograph for my wife, so which was nice.
did he? Oh, that's awesome. That's
So
awesome. One thing I can't stand is celebrities that are shitty to their fans. And that's something I do I do follow some of these ones that just think they think these ones that think that they're above us.
yeah,
Because when I go to the movie theater,
they don't realize that if it's not for us, they don't have a career.
yeah, well, I've seen some comments that Jennifer Lawrence has made recently that really turned me off of her, especially with her, because I used to really like her, and it's like, you know, apparently, and you don't want to bother somebody when they're eating, of course, I get that, but when I hear comments like, I won't do selfies because I don't know these people, but yet she'll do selfies with every friggin' celebrity that's around her. Or I hear comments like, she doesn't say my best friend. She says my best friend, Amy Schumer, as if she wants everybody to know what she's surrounding herself with. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
when you're putting your public in a position where they're not worthy, well, when I go to the movie theater, I'm just like, well, I don't want to support that person. I don't want to support somebody that would just rather treat me like spit on the pavement.
yeah.
I'm not saying they owe me, like I wouldn't harass them like the paparazzi, but the same token, that audience is somebody you want to respect them, because at the end of the day, when those tallies come in, when push comes to shove, it's those fans that make the decision.
Right. I remember, and let's see. We're gonna go till 2 o'clock, right?
Go as long as we want to. Don't matter to
Right.
me. Keep going.
Well, the only reason I ask is because at 6 o'clock I gotta go work at Amazon, but I like I say, when you're working 5 jobs and you don't ever get a day off because when you're off on one and then your other job finds you and
Yeah,
asks you, hey, I need someone to cover the shift. Can you come in?
I'm dealing with that now, and I've just got
It's
one
like,
job.
oh yeah. But The Rock, when I met him down at the Mall of America,
Uh-huh.
well, it's funny. I says, uh, Mr. Rock, I said, can I get your autograph? And he says, sure. And they said, what is your name? And I was saying, it doesn't matter what your name is. I'm like, oh, The Rock just cut a promo on me. It was awesome, you know.
If
You
do
know,
do you have any convention stories? Like I mentioned conventions I've been to. Who have you met at conventions that made an impression on you?
good or bad impression.
Both. Mention your good ones
Okay.
first, and then mention some of your bad ones.
Well, probably the best convention I ever was in was the Comic Con here when they had Mad Frank here. Um, I'll give you a brief thing on Mad Frank. I'm known as his number one fan,
Okay.
and they did a documentary about him. An independent film director in Bemidji, Minnesota, did a documentary about him, and he's one of these. He was one of these guys that would dress up and make up and stuff and like play like these C minus D plus horror films on a Saturday night, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I got to sit at the table with him. More people asked for Matt Frank's autograph than mine. But what was cool about that is they actually had me be part of the Comic Con and sign autographs that was probably my best experience because I got to be there with Mad Frank. We were pitching his movie, and they had the screening a month later. I was sitting in the first seat. Mad Frank was here, and as the film was going on, he's sitting there giving me audio commentary about the whole film. And my worst experience was when I went to the convention in the Minnesota Convention Center in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Hmm.
Ken Herbeck was there. That's when he had a fishing show back in there, fishing with Ken Herbeck.
Okay.
And I grew up all my life as a Twins fan still to this day. And Ken Herbeck was there. And I went there Friday night, but he had already left. And he was the only reason why I was going there. And I talked to, they said, here, we'll give you tickets for tomorrow. We'll give you comp tickets for tomorrow. We'll cover your parking because get this, parking at the building was $5 an hour to
Yeah.
park at
Oh,
this place.
hey.
So they said, we'll comp your parking. And then I get there. They tell me what time he's going to be there. I get there first in line. He comes up. And I said, and for some reason, whenever I meet celebrities, I always do this. I don't know why. I always say, hey, you're Ken Herbeck. You know, same thing when I met President Clinton. I said, hey, you're Bill Clinton. Like they know who they are, right? And I said, Mr. Herbeck, I'd like to have you sign this. He said, well, I'm not giving autographs out today. I'm like, what?
What's he doing there then?
Yeah, he said, I'm not giving out autographs today. He said, well, I'll tell you what, here's what I'll do. Just go walk around for about an hour or hour and a half and then come back and then maybe I'll sign for you. I said, oh, okay. So I go and I come back after an hour and there's a lineup of people and he's autographing these people's stuff. And he said he wasn't signing. And I get up, I get in line, I said, what the hell is this? You said you weren't signing. He said, well, I was just joking with you. I didn't think you'd take me seriously. I'm like, this is bullshit. You don't do that.
Yep.
You know? And I was completely taken aback by that. You know? I I went around walking around for a whole hour and I didn't need to. Uh, and I was first in line. I ended up being last in line. You know, uh, Bill Murray was another example.
Bill Murray. I'm a big Bill Murray fan, but I've heard bad things, even from other
He
guests.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew this or not, but he's a part owner of the St. Paul Saints, another
Okay.
arch rival of the FM Red Hawks. And I was at a St. Paul Saints game when I lived in the cities, which we call St. Paul, Minneapolis, here in North Dakota. We call them the cities. And he was throughout the first base and he was doing a guest appearance.
Hmm.
And they set up an autograph table. I was third in line. Here's what happened. He autographed the first guy, he autographed the second guy, and left.
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray. Oh,
Yeah, I've
so,
heard.
and I've hated him now ever since.
Yeah, I've heard bad autograph stories about Bill Murray, which is unfortunate, because he's got a lot of fans. Don't do it if you're not gonna. Don't do that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I'll tell you one of the best experiences I had. I never had any bad experiences at cons, but one of the best experience I had was at Frightmare in the Falls last year. Is Felissa Rose. She's a doll, and she was busy even when the place was closing. She signed for everybody, and she gave every fan a big hug. She would always do a picture with the doing the sleepaway camp Angela face, and then do one where you're just smiling together, and she was wonderful. Another guy I enjoyed meeting was John Rhys Davies, who was in Raiders of the Lost Ark. He
And James Bond, he was in Little Living Daylights.
Yep.
I love John Rice Davies.
Well, he's great to meet. He would always ask everybody what they did, like what their name was, what they did for a living. He'd make a conversation with them. One of the things he did with me when we got our picture taken with each other, he put his arm around me and he took his fingers and he was going like this into my side just to get me to react. And I did. I smiled, and but he was great. And another guy that was great to meet was Corbin Burson from Major
Oh,
League.
Corbin Burnson, yeah. You know, my favorite movie of his was Disorganized Crime
Yeah.
with him, Lou Diamond Phillips, and Fred Gwynn,
Hmm.
and Ruben Blades.
Well, I'll tell you the story with him. Um, Not only was he nice to meet, but he apparently his he learned how to do selfies at this Comic Con and was joking around with his handler about doing selfies. He was like, "I'm getting to be very good at this." And Lisa Langlois, of course, I've always got a special place in my heart for Lisa. She invited me to my first con. I'm looking forward to doing another one with her this fall. Um, I remember Vernon Wells very well from Road Warrior. He was he was right. Lisa's table was here. Vernon's was right here. And when things were, it was busy all weekend, but when things got a little quieter, I would just to shoot the shit with him, and
You
he
know,
was
what's
great.
interesting about Vernon Wells is all the different roles he's played,
Hmm.
and he's never looked like his actual self. Like, for instance, when he was in Commando, when he played Bennett, he didn't look like himself. I mean, he's like the man of a thousand faces when he was in MacGyver, when he was in the movie Fortress, Shrimp on the Barbie. You know, uh, I, that there's one I can't remember the guest that said he was going to hook me up with him. I got to try and track him down. Uh, I can't remember. You know, I hate to not remember this stuff. I feel like Eric Bischoff because it's like I just don't recall. You know,
Hmm.
but it is 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
But you know, the interesting thing. One of the best. You mentioned selfies was Aaron Tippin. Uh, he was at the casino around here, and it was him, Sammy Kershaw, and Colin Ray. And for $20, you bought a shirt, and they took us back to meet Aaron Tippin. And I bought a shirt for my wife, and I bought a shirt for me. And they took us back, and they said, "Okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to set your phones up to camera, and you're going to go walk behind Aaron, and he's going to take a picture with your cell phone. He's going to do a selfie with you." And what an amazing, nice guy, you know. And and I told him the story about how he brought a tear to my dad's eye. He said, "Yeah, I remembered your dad because he'd met him 3 months ago at a concert he was at. He remembered my dad weeping, talking about you got to stand for something, you fall for anything, you know." He remembered my dad, which is really awesome, you know.
Yep.
But the sad thing is when you meet a celebrity, and most are really nice, but when a celebrity is a jerk,
Hmm.
there's you know why why do you have to treat people badly? I mean, what, just because you got $1 billion in the bank and we don't, that makes you better than us? No.
Yeah, I've never had a bad encounter yet at a con. Knock on wood, I hope not to. Um, I can be a nice guy, but I can also be an asshole if I'm being pushed in that direction. But so far, everybody's been fine. Most people, when they're at cons, they just want to, meet. They're making money out their photos and whatnot, and most of them like are very, very, very nice. Like I said, Felissa Rose knows the drill, and she is a master at it. You know, I can't recommend her any stronger than I am. She's awesome, but But I've never had any bad encounters. People are generally pretty friendly. So yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Wow.
Well, I
This
think we're
is
gonna.
awesome.
Oh,
I would love to come on again. Yeah, I'm sure you don't want me to come on again, but I would love to come back on again. This is awesome.
well, I
You got a
usually.
great show, bud.
Oh, I appreciate it. Um, I usually have guests on once a year. And like I said, I'm happy to book you on again for my 2023s. And but I'm pretty sure we're going to stay in contact anyway, so that's fine with me.
Because
But
our fans
yeah,
definitely want you back on again.
huh?
Our fans want you back on again. So,
Really? That is funny to me.
well, I'm not just saying that. I get reviews like in the chat room at the radio station, and
Hmm.
they're like, I mean, you can tell when fans are really digging the interview. Because what I'll do is when I introduce the show for the first 15 minutes, I say who's going to be on. And you
Uh-huh.
can tell if we're going to have a strong listenership because after I read it, they'll either log off or they'll stay, you know. And when I list the guests, like when I list you, because you were the first one on that night, people logged on, they listened to your interview, they stayed. So they got a kick out of you. They loved you,
I
you know.
appreciate that. But I'm humbled
Yeah.
by that, you know.
Yeah.
I'm glad I entertained them. I'm surprised, but at the same token, I'm humbled. I appreciate it. You know, what interviews of mine did you hear that connected you with me?
Uh, well, I didn't. I've been listening to interviews lately because I've been working a graveyard shift a lot. But going through our few mutual friends, I'm like, just gonna. What I said was, I'm like gonna shoot him a message and see if he'll be on the show,
I was happy
which was
to. Yep.
awesome.
I was
Yeah,
happy to. Yeah, I was very happy to, and
I'm just
glad to
surprised that
have.
no one's ever asked for your autograph before, though. That's surprising me.
I'm not surprised, but you know what? If you want an autograph, I'll see what I can do. I'll try to get that picture you sent of me. That was pretty cool. The one that you
I
did
hope you
with
like
the.
that.
I did. By the way, those two pictures, the headshot and the one of me sitting there, those were both taken by Lisa Langlois from
Really?
class of 1984. She took the headshot on Facebook because the previous one, she said, yeah, that's not really you. She wanted, like, she's always been helping me to better myself and my presentation. And she took that headshot of me, and I like it. And the other one, it was after a show one night, one of the conventions or something like that, and we are just kind of walking around one of the subway areas, and we went into a shop that had places where you could sit down, but they had what looked like liquor drinks, only it was plastic,
Oh, sure.
and I had an Anchorman shirt on that said Scotch, Scotch, Scotch on it from Anchorman, that picture of Will Ferrell.
Right.
So she told me to sit down and like look like I'm toasting or something like that, and I had the shirt Scotch, Scotch, and I had the plastic. I never knew they had those. I guess they were just there for design for whatever place that was. But she took that photo of me, and I was like, "Hey, that's cool." So yeah,
See,
she.
when I use that picture, you notice that I tucked the drink behind the bubble because I couldn't really have like like alcohol thing on the
Oh, that's
on
fine.
the radio page. So that's why I kind of like conveniently tucked it behind that bubble where your other facial shot was. But
Fine with me. You chose two
you
good
know,
pictures, so.
yeah, I wonder maybe if you would next time you talk to her say, "Hey, do you recognize these photos?" You know.
Yep. Oh well, if I can figure out a way to do those off, Um,
Well, I've had a few guests. What they've done is, they have like they'll, you don't have to do this, but some have. They went to. They have like a printer at home.
I
They
don't have a
went to.
printer.
You don't have a printer,
No.
or what they did was they saved it to their phone, went to like Walmart or whatever, and did 5 glossy pictures or whatever, or Walgreens. Well, I guess I don't know what you guys have in Canada, but Walgreens or CVS, and they'll like send the pictures to Walgreens or CVS or whatever, or even free the another one I like to use, free prints. It's an app where you can where what you can do is you get like 85 free prints or whatever for your first order. And what you do is you select like different pictures, and then they'll print them out and then they'll send them to you.
I
And
might do the
the
Walmart.
app,
I might do the Walmart route because I've done something like that before. I've just never done it off my phone. But you know what? I think I can figure it out somehow. And yeah, I'm open to that. Sure. You want
that's awesome.
a signed picture of me? I suppose I can do that,
And you are awesome. I love being on your show, and I have some more cool ideas for some cool guests that would. Well, I definitely want to hook you up with a figurine guy.
Well, you
Um,
know what? We can do that. I'd be open to that. So yeah, if it's the same guy, then I think I got the Kurt Hennig from him.
right.
Maybe, it depends. I know it was on
I just can't
Etsy,
wait to see what
random
the.
treasures on Etsy it was, so
I just can't wait to see what the figurine of Granny Hulks from the Icon looks like. uh,
there you go. There you go. Well, you know what? Since you probably got to get up early and do
yeah,
five,
I gotta get up in 2 hours.
oh gee, I don't have to get up for another, mm, I don't have to go to work until tomorrow at 5, so we've got some time.
Yeah. It's funny. My schedule is I work at Amazon from well, let's see, from 4 in the morning till 5:30 at night. I go back to the hotel from 6 to 6 in the morning, then back to Amazon till 5:30, then back to the hotel till 7 Saturday morning. So this is the time of the week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, where I get no sleep for 72 hours.
Don't know how you do it, but I've kind of been
I don't
there.
know how I do it
I've been a zombie before as well. So, but it was wonderful having you on here, Scott. And
I appreciate it.
yep. And before I let you go, I'll let you do a plug for my show. But while you plug your show, well, you plug my show, plug your show. Tell us about your show.
All right. Well, we all want you to come listen to Attitude Era Monday, live Monday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central Standard Time on 89.1 Ken's FM, kensfm.com with Granny Hulkster, the Icon, the Big Swing, and of course, all my guests that we have on every Monday night.
Absolutely. And now do a plug for my show, Python's Paradise with Greg Gilbert.
Hey, you're listening to Python's Paradise with Greg Gilbert, the man, the myth, the legend, Canada's own, the reason why Canada exists today in podcast history is Greg Gilbert.
Okay, that's humbling. I'll take that. Oh,
See,
I
that's
don't.
the other thing. You never did comment about the introduction I gave you when you were on my show. You know, um,
Oh, you're
I
great.
always try to, yeah, I always try to do like a wrestling,
Oh,
whatever you
you know
want to
what?
say.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. You did
It's
fine.
awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. I don't envy the fact that you gotta get up in 2 hours to job. But hey,
Yeah, so like I said, I'm going to sleep the next 2 hours, and I'll be up for the next 72 after that. So,
oh my goodness. I don't envy you there, but I've been there before, so I know the feeling. Not fun.
and that's proof that energy drinks do work.
Well, maybe I'll have to invest in those as well. Well, you know what, Scott? We'll be in touch. You know, and yet stay in touch and keep fighting the good fight. I'm really glad you connected with me. Like I said, I'm humbled that you wanted to talk to me, and yeah, I was happy to have you on. And yeah, I'll be. I'm gonna put you on my 2023 list to have you back, and yeah, look forward to it. But I'll
And
be glad.
most importantly, thank you for being a friend. I appreciate it.
No problem. You know, it's what God put me here for, and like I said, I'm open to coming back on your show. That's not a problem for me. So
Awesome.
yeah. If listeners want to hear me again, I'm humbled. And I didn't
Awesome.
even, and I didn't even have to be put in the camel clutch by the Iron Sheik to be humbled. So there you go. But anyway, man, I bid you a wonderful day. God bless you, and keep fighting the good fight. Keep the Attitude Era live on Monday nights going.
And thumbs up to everybody. Thanks.
Absolutely. Take care.
Take care, but see you later.
Bye bye.